Good morning, it's Harvey Jackson. We're just going to get into some of the news here. Australia wheat and canola expected to shrink because of high price fertilizer in that country. Here's the report. Australia's major crop of wheat and other crops' lower output would reduce global supply, putting upward pressure on prices that reached two-year highs last month due to crop losses in the United States. Uh, that would be around 9 million metric tons less this season, which is roughly 8 million less than the average over the last 5 seasons. So last year was a really good crop. And then just other crop information here. ABAR's estimate that the amount of land that wheat would fall by 12% from last year to 10.9 million hectares, and the least since 1920. Planting of barley, which requires less fertilizer than wheat, is set to increase 4% from last season to 5 million hectares, but production will still fall 15% to 14.1 million. And again, exceptional crops across the world last year, but things are just going to go back to average. I've been talking about that for a while. The area planted with canola, which needs plenty of fertilizer, but is more valuable than wheat, should fall 6% to 3.5 million hectares, but the harvest will be 20% smaller because of fertilizer and just normalizing yields. The crop conditions came out yesterday or after the close. Corn, good to excellent. I'm going to say it's a bottom end of the range. And the same thing with the soybeans. Soybeans even lower than expected crop conditions. And there's lots of things going on in the U.S. And I would reiterate that the more critical time for crop conditions are probably a little bit later in the season, but take note of it now. And then wheat crop conditions, a fair bit below um, uh, conditions there as well. So whether the market will take any notice of that. This is just old news, and again, I'll post the Manitoba one as well. Both should be out later today, but just your overall before all this wet stuff that's happened here, you're 74%, or let's call it 75, and you can see that that's behind pace. Now, how much happened since then, I'm not certain, depending on where and when. Manitoba was just at around that 55%, but there would be a fair bit of planting. More critically is what is Saskatchewan, because Saskatchewan's acres are the biggest, and we don't get those ones until Thursday, I believe. Oh, this is just talking about the recession.
If you listen to the bank economists across the country, a technical recession is what it is. They're looking to see what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah, I'm not sure at this juncture, Tom, it's the R word that is the main inflection point politically. But if you have 0.1% growth or 0.1% contraction, either way, your economy has flatlined, which I do feel like becomes a political issue.
It's a huge political issue, and I love the way the word technical crab walked its way sideways and attached itself to the word recession. Because I don't know about you guys, but I'm trying to find any textbook that gives a definition of a technical recession. Yes, officer, technically I was speeding, but it was only a few miles an hour above the speed limit. A recession is a recession is a recession. 2 consecutive quarters, negative growth, recession, not a technical recession. So,
like if you
Iran war, there's nothing seems to be certain over there. There's crude oil is still in the 90s. I don't know if that's going to change anytime soon, but Iran and I'm going to say says Lebanon covered by ceasefire terms. They want the terms in there, but U.S. Donald Trump keeps on saying that there is some sort of agreement that's going to come, but sure, there's no sign of it right now. Not certain at all. I asked the AI to kind of build a little bit of a, what is where's our biggest, essentials? What's the cost for you to live in Canada versus some other countries? And you're looking at Canada with a median household income of 78,000, or let's go to all U.S. dollars. You're just shy of 57,000. U.S. is at 83. EU is 38, and then China's 15. When you look at these percentages and the affordability you got housing and food increasing in cost. Canada's 41%. You're 40% across the world here or plus, but you're 42% in China with only 15% of your household income. Yeah. Anyway, so you get share of food is 10% in Canada, only 6.6 in the US, EU's 13, and then China's around 20. And then housing is the other cost as well. Global oil inventories, I want to keep track of this. You can see that we are going down in that direction, and when it goes below these critical inventory levels, but what it does show you is that they were quite high at the beginning of this war as well, and that's why we had relatively cheap fuel. Here's our weather. You can see the circling happening. Alberta's getting rain constantly here. So even later on this week, you can see there's another 3 inches over there. And this is what's been accumulated already. So you've got quite a variance up in that Alberta region. And we'll just see how it's actually building. This is old information, but 7 days prior to May 31st, Alberta basically blew. I'm going to say the Peace definitely didn't get the rain, but this is your total soil moisture. This is the one I'm going to probably pay attention to until when we get updated information after all these rains going through the prairies here. You can see quite a build here. Central U.S. is going to get a lot of rain, and it looks like we're all going to get wet by the look of this by mid-June. Here's Australia. You can see the rains are hitting the coastlines, and rainfall aids U.S. crop, but dry forecast loom. So what areas are important? Here's your rapeseed, and the same thing with your wheat. Canola down $5.50 at $7.80. Soybean oil is down 40 cents at $78.70. Palm oil is basically unchanged. Crude oil is down close to $1 at $91.23. Soybeans down 4 cents at $11.76. Spring wheat down a couple pennies at $6.50. Hard red winter down 7 3/4 at $6.39. Your corn is down a couple pennies at $4.42, and the Canadian dollar is down again. Quick look here. You can see that we've popped above that range on the November contract, and we'll have to see if we can hold up there. Love to say that this market's going to keep going. It's pretty hard to say that when we got rain, but we need the crop to go in too. That's the other part. We'll have to see how this week plays out, with the data, how much got planted. Rapeseed, here we are. Constantly hitting its head here. It's been 3 times now on this resistance and not breaking out. When we look at soybean oil, and I keep looking back at these past values I showed you yesterday too, are we going to get to some of those highs? Soybeans good to excellent wasn't bad. So it's just not bad. And you look at what the July contract is doing, and still wanting to get back into this range of trade here, and that's where it is. And yet you got your November contract trading sideways, but not for that same length of time, I can tell you that. Here's your palm oil, basically still in this downward wedge. Crude oil up against some short-term moving averages here. Your extension pivot point is right there now. Breakout of diesel fuel has not happened, and a good slide. There's still reasonable values. You can, if I recall right, with the discussion I had with Fuel Nexus just the other day or last week, if you were to book fuel for next year, I think with their discounts you can get close to it's below 90 cents if you use the discounts for next year, but you have to pay for it when you book it. So gasoline futures fallen, but now it's kind of stabilized, going sideways here. Canadian dollar, I still expect it to get back to those lows, and I wouldn't be surprised if we break through there. We're going to go down to that 70.8 cents. Euro, it's in that downward trend as well. But the S&P, that market is just on fire. It just keeps on going. Quick look at wheat. We're filling this gap that was made here, and we're breaking through here. So we'll have to see how this is going to play out. It still feels like we're going in that direction here. So here's your December contract. It's looking like it could get back into those values there too. And yet the story with Australia is probably not going to stop the market at this point in time, but until we know that their crop is getting smaller for sure. Because there's been weeks and weeks of reports of high cost fertilizer, and they hadn't secured it like the North American market had. Milling wheat, looks like we're in this channel here. We're at the bottom end of this channel. If that breaks out or breaks lower, it's going to continue to go. Here's what Corn futures looks like the directionality is getting back to those values, the previous low that we made back at the